3, 2.
What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here with your Packers Daily Chat live across the internet, wherever you may be. That's where we like to be here at Cheesehead TV. The day off for most of the players. Obviously, that doesn't mean business stops. The Packers making a flurry of moves this afternoon, including placing Aaron Jones on injured reserve, calling up a practice squad player from Jacksonville, a wide receiver, bringing him onto the 53-man roster. Tons of great stuff going on here in the chat already. Hello to everyone chiming in. It's good to see you all. Facebook, Twitter, what have you. Always a good time. It's funny. A lot of the talk today, I think, has been centered around Aaron Rodgers and his play on Sunday. And look, I don't think anyone's under any illusions that Rodgers has been part of the problem. It is interesting how the conversation seems to have turned to Rodgers being the problem in 2018. I think that's probably because he's the last man standing, so to speak. Mike McCarthy is out the door, and Rodgers is there to take the slings and arrows, so to speak. But I mean, anyone who thinks that there aren't multiple components here and multiple layers and levels, etc., you're fooling yourself. Rodgers has not played up to his standard, but he has still played at a level far beyond a pedestrian quarterback for the most part. Now, obviously, there have been issues in the fourth quarter and things of that nature, but to say that's all on Aaron Rodgers is a bit silly. 9 months until meaningful football. No, says Martin. I hear you, man. It's this is the tough part when you have to sit through games that don't mean anything at the end of the year. It sucked last year. It's going to suck this year, no doubt about it. Let's see here. Hold on a second. I think I got the wrong chat up, folks. I'm gonna have to take 2 seconds here. Just give me 2 seconds, and I'll get you guys here live with me. There we go. So this is live internet, right? Happening right here in front of you. But as I always say, if it's not worth doing live, it ain't worth doing, or something like that. All right. See what's going on. Oh, there we go. Aaron, that's me. I'm live now. That's how I like to roll. I like to do things live. Sorry, guys. Let me get your chat going here. There we go. If this season is what it takes for 2 rings, I'll take it. We'll see. Oh, boy. Yeah. There we go. Who do you like more, Boyle or Kaiser? Well, Sam, I think they're two very different quarterbacks, obviously. I think Kaiser's got all the talent in the world. He clearly needs reps in the offense. His stint there week 1 against the Bears was hardly representative of who I think he can be. That said, the offense is probably going out the door, so it's not like you're going to get a true barometer of whatever offense you're bringing in. I like Boyle, but I think preseason hype gets a little carried away. I think he's a journeyman, kind of 3, maybe borderline 2 quarterback. I don't think he's much more than that. Fans aren't great at dealing with multi-layered problems. More than one thing can be true at once. Nick, 100% correct. Well stated. Let's see, try and get this chat out here. What's up, Nagler? Jonathan, what's up with you, man? How you doing? Trying to get you guys back on the big screen here. See how I'm doing. There we go. Pull that. Pull this. We want the live chat, not the top chat, because you guys are worth it. Boy. Here we go. Thoughts on the play from Eddie Pleasant? Yeah, I think he's been serviceable. He's made a few errors, but he's also made a few plays. A lot of these guys, they just want to turn some heads and maybe get invited back this offseason. I think he's definitely shown promise so far as his limited action, but we'll see how he plays these next 2 weeks. I really wanted to see the Packers get a good special teams coach. I mean, it has been a while since they've been anything other than a clown car on special teams. But that said, it is one of the tougher spots in the league. It is one of the tougher jobs, and especially when you've got a a roster and a philosophical kind of opposition to bringing in vets, well, then that gets to be a problem if you're continually bringing in a bunch of young guys over and over and over again. That said, that is a problem throughout the league, and it's not like it's specific to Green Bay as far as having to shuffle guys in and out. And Ron Zook has been anything but exemplary in that role. Do you see the Packers going after Ron Rivera if he gets fired? It's a possibility. I guess even making a call. It's not a name that leaps to mind, but you never know. It really comes down to Mark Murphy and Brian Gutekunst and their preference. Gaff, you all right there, buddy? I can hear you in the studio. Everything okay?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Rodgers' window is closing fast, and the roster has so many holes. Well, that's the NFL, right? I mean, same thing was true in 2005, whenever it was, that Mike McCarthy came on board, 2006. And then they were in the NFC Championship game in 2007. So, things can turn around quickly. Now, don't get it twisted. Yes, Brian Gutekunst needs to kill this offseason. But I've seen a lot of kind of writing off of the Packers, so to speak, for the next year or two, just because they're bringing in a new coach and people saying that, they've got a rebuild ahead of them. I don't think, it's as easy as add new coach, add new players, and away they go. But, I mean, look at the Bears. Now, they have had a decent turnaround in a short amount of time. Now, obviously, they've been drafting much higher than the Packers have been, although the Packers had a decent slot last year, and they should have a decent slot this year. I don't think the turnaround is going to be this gargantuan problem that they're going to have to face. And as the commenter mentioned, Rodgers' window, it is slowly closing, but I think they've got the ability. The road is open to them to make this maybe not painless, but I think we've gone through the painful part. Now the question is, how quickly can they turn things around? And I don't think it needs to take 2 or 3 years, like some people seem to be saying. Let's head over to Twitter, see what's going on over there. Starting with Steve, who says, "Why is catching a punt rocket science for this team?" I don't know, Steve. Maybe it's just too much tuna. Sorry, I had to make reference to the oh hello in your Twitter handle there. But seriously, that was one of the many reasons I was upset when they let Micah Hyde go. They didn't even offer him a contract. And not only was he an emerging player, somebody who did everything they asked, somebody who was becoming a really good football player right at the time when it was coming up to contract time, but he was also one of their best punt returners in the history of the franchise. He tied for the franchise lead in punt returns for touchdowns, and he was the most sure-handed guy I've ever seen in my time watching the Green Bay Packers. Hyde, obviously every guy makes a mistake here or there throughout the years, but Hyde almost never made a mistake. And now they've gone through just a litany of bumbling and fumbling. Maybe that's down to the special teams coach. Maybe they just need to draft a specialized returner. Goodness knows, almost longing for the days of Trevor Davis fielding a punt in the end zone. Those were the days. Paul says, Rodgers has continued to talk about not being on the same page with wide receivers. Do you think he shows true leadership and brings them together in the offseason for some work together at his home in California? I doubt it. You'll remember the year of the lockout when everyone was talking about the offseason workouts or the lack thereof, and then the Packers came back and blew the doors off the Saints. Well, on offense anyway. It was a close game because the Saints did the same thing to the Packers. But afterwards, Rodgers made the joke, imagine we could have scored even more points if we had had off-season workouts. Now, obviously, that was a different time. They were coming off the Super Bowl championship, lockout, etc. But I don't think he would probably feel that was necessary. That's just a hunch, just watching from the outside. Maybe he changes his tune. Maybe he does get the guys together this offseason. But I would be surprised. No matter the hire for head coach for the Packers, do you have any fear that the results of this year and last year could continue for a couple more seasons while the new coach, quote, settles in? Michael, not really. Like I just said, I do think it's the ability for a quick turnaround is there. They have the assets. They should have ample cap space, a bunch of draft picks, a new head coach, a new philosophy, a fresh voice. It's a quick turnaround is possible. Now, could they be in the midst of a bit of a drought like the Saints went through in their 3 7-9 seasons? Sure, that's always possible. The NFL is a fickle beast, and you are either getting better or getting worse. Clearly, the Packers have been getting worse the last couple of years, but a quick turnaround is not out of the realm of possibility. I think the talk of Rodgers being the main problem is mostly over-exaggeration. Yes, he's missed passes he's hit in his sleep. However, playing with an MCL sprain and a makeshift O-line doesn't help. If he continues next year, then we should start to worry. Yes and no, Zach. I mean, anybody's like, I said it at the top of the video, anyone saying that Rodgers is the main problem is probably, you can set that person on, the pay no mind list, so to speak. But, he's been a problem. There's no doubt about that. And if you dismiss that, then, it's as bad as going the other way. That said, yeah, if he's, throwing critical third downs into the dirt next year and sailing critical passes in crunch time over receivers' heads next year, then we should worry? Yeah, maybe, I guess. But, you can only go by what the guy puts on tape this year. And you can also only take him at his word. And he has sworn blind that the knee is not bothering him. And all that's left is the tape of him throwing the ball into the dirt and sailing it over receivers' heads. Again, I don't think he's the problem, but he is a problem, or he has been so far in 2018. Let's get back to the live chat, such as it was. When is the earliest we can re-sign Clark? Another 2 years, but even then, they won't do that because they'll have the 5th-year option at their disposal. So, I'm sorry. Wait, is this his 3rd year? Gosh, time flies. So, at the end of his, or heading into his 4th year, they'll most likely exercise the 5th-year option. Traditionally, you can't, somebody outside the first round, you have to wait till that 4th year to begin negotiations for a contract extension. But with with Clark, they'll most likely just slap the 5th-year option on him. Alan Lazard, yes, that's the name of the wide receiver who the Packers poached from the Jaguars practice squad. Aaron, do you think some of the undrafted guys like Green, Morrison, Lancaster, Brown, Tanyan, or Gilbert have potential to be starters? Woo, that's a big jump. Maybe Brown and a big time maybe Lancaster. But everybody else, I don't see it. I guess maybe Tanyan, but even that I doubt. How likely is it that the Packers find an edge rusher in free agency? Julian, very unlikely. Maybe Clowney gets out there and they throw a ton of money at him. I said yesterday, I think there'll be lots of teams with lots more cap room that are able to give him the kind of deal that makes it hard for the Packers to keep up financially, so to speak. And don't forget, we still have to go through the tag period and the re-signing period where, I say this every year, where you go into free agency or the start of the offseason and you look at the lists of potential free agents or soon-to-be free agents only to have those lists completely whittled down by the time the spring arrives because teams have slapped on franchise tags, transition tags, or re-signed their guys. That's the whole reason Nick Perry is still on this team. Heading into that offseason, there were all sorts of names that Packers fans and teams were kind of salivating over. And then one by one, those guys all got tagged. All those edge guys got tagged or re-signed with their teams. And then all of a sudden, Nick Perry was the best available option at outside linebacker. So Ted re-signed him. Same thing happened back in the day with KGB. When Mike Sherman re-signed him. So, it's going to be hard, I think, to find a true difference maker and or even a viable starter in free agency. I think it's much more about the draft and finding those guys that you can bring into your program fresh. Iowa State Cyclones, that's right. Lazard is a big target, and he's a guy who will go up and get it. Not exactly a burner, but he's a physical specimen. Pettin is a serious option for head coach. I think he deserves to be. I think he should be. I don't know. He has said a couple of times publicly he has no interest in being a head coach again. We'll see if that holds true. We'll see if Mark Murphy and Brian Gutekunst have any interest in offering him the job or at least interviewing him for the job. But I agree with you. I think his body of work, his season here in Green Bay, or there in Green Bay, definitely warrants consideration. How long do you think is an appropriate period of time to give to the GM to turn this team around? Well, he's got a 5-year contract, so I'm going to give him at least 4 years, I would say. I've said last summer, I think you look at the moves he made last year, it's pretty clear as a GM who has been given a 5-year deal, he's been setting himself up to make sure that he gets another contract past that initial 5 years. And I think this is a big offseason for him, where he will essentially, this will stop being a team in transition from Thompson to Gutekunst and will become Gutekunst's team. That's what the offseason heading into 2019 is going to be all about. Darrell Bevell, next head coach. Well, I found Brett Favre's burner YouTube account. Chad, I would be absolutely shocked if Darrell Bevell was a head coach in Green Bay or anywhere else. But stranger things have happened. We have to take a QB in the upcoming draft, don't we? Surprise first rounder? Daniel, I'd be surprised for sure. I think they're a year away from having to make that move. Now, if there's a guy they love, sure, maybe they pull the trigger. But with 2 first-round picks, I guess it's a possibility. If you see a guy long-term that you like to groom behind Rodgers these next 3 years before his contract is up, then maybe that's the move they make. But it would take Gutekunst being completely sold on somebody as the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers for him to do so. And only Brian Gutekunst will know for sure. Do you think the Packers take a wide receiver with the Saints first rounder? Possible. I mean, it's so early in the process. Let's see who's available. Let's see what the tiers look like. Let's see who declares, who lines up as far as how many actual first round grades we put on guys who will be available when the Packers pick, etc. I mean, who knows? They could take a wide receiver with their own pick. Maybe if there's somebody they love, you never know. It's all good. It's all good all the time. You got that right. With playoff hopes gone, can Rodgers show more Favre and throw more 50-50 balls? Well, that's if he plays. I will be very surprised if the Packers don't shut him down tomorrow. But we'll see. That's where the signs are pointing, though. I think reading between the lines, reading the tea leaves, they've opened themselves up to shut him down pretty easily. Talking about his groin injury that he suffered in Chicago. Patton yesterday saying that everyone who's healthy will play. Well, if Rodgers pops up on the injury report with a groin injury, and I might give them the cover they need to shut him down and start Kaiser. Ooh, that'll be a game. Did Jimmy Graham underperform this year, or did we just set too high of expectations for the Rodgers-Graham connection? That's a really good question, George. Probably a bit of both, though I would categorize it as a disappointment, if only because, you would have thought that he'd be really effective in the red zone, and he just hasn't been. Now, whether that's, a lack of chemistry between the quarterback and the tight end, or that's a lack of ability on Graham's part, a loss of ability to go get those 50-50 balls. He hasn't been given a ton of opportunities by the quarterback, but I think it's fair to categorize it as a disappointment. There's no doubt about that. Can Aaron be a little more of a gunslinger now that we have nothing to play for? Sure. Quentin Rollins recently cut by the Cardinals. The 2015 draft was abysmal. Yep, it's been talked about ad nauseum. What players can't be re-signed next season, which will allow us to have the largest amount of cap space? Can't be re-signed next season. You mean allow them to walk? Well, Matthews comes off the book. Cobb comes off the books. I know there's others that I'm forgetting in the moment, but those are the 2 big ones where that should open up a ton of cap room. I want to see Kaiser play, so you're the one. Interesting. I hope they rest Rodgers. Tom, I think there's a good chance. Sounds like a hard worker with that. Nice. All right, guys, I'll take 1 or 2 more. What you got? What you got? List of draft needs is pretty long, isn't it? Let's see what free agency bears. I mean, we have a whole period there where they could be signing guys prior to the draft, but, I think like most years, they need an edge rusher and they need offensive line help. Those are things that are never going to go out of style, so to speak, when you're drafting and building a team. To me, it's all about offensive line help. I think that's their biggest need. And I know there are other areas of concern, but to me, nothing can operate until they fix that offensive line, especially the right side. What happened to Jamon? Christopher, he had a bad case of the drops in preseason and training camp and just never regained the quarterback's trust, most likely, or the staff's trust, really. He didn't play from scrimmage. He was active on Sunday, but he played completely on special teams. I think he just needs an offseason to polish his game, and we'll see what happens next year. I mean, he's got all the ability in the world. It's just a question of putting it together with QB1. Will the Packers re-sign Muhammad Wilkerson? Cody, that's a really good question. I hope they do. You have to think, I mean, what a disappointing situation for him. Came to Green Bay, most likely hoping to have a good year and then hit free agency and get one last kind of big bite at the apple, so to speak. But now I think he'll be lucky to find somebody willing to give him a multi-year deal. I think, it would make a lot of sense for him and for the Packers. Now, a lot of that will depend on who the coach is and what kind of system they're running, and if Pettin's still around. I think Pettin was a big driver in bringing him in, although he did visit a number of other teams last spring. So I'd like to see him back, provided that they're running a system that suits him. But we'll see. I think it's a good idea if Pettin's still the coach, especially. Do we keep Geronimo? Christopher, I think so. He's only a restricted free agent. I've seen a lot of people kind of talking about how he's set to hit free agency or something, and that's not the case. He's a restricted free agent, so the Packers still control his rights. And I think it'd be silly to let him walk. Rams released Farrell Cooper. Solution for our special teams problems? I don't know about a solution. Oh, he's worth a look, though. We'll see if Gutekunst brings him in. Will Allen Lazard get some playing time? I would doubt it Tuesday, being claimed today, or I'm sorry, signed today. And he'll start practicing tomorrow and have 2 real practices, and then Saturday's kind of walkthrough practice, and then on the field on Sunday. I can't see it. Maybe on special teams, but I'd be shocked if he played from scrimmage. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump. Thank you so much for all the questions. Thanks so much for joining us each and every day here at Cheesehead TV, wherever you are on the internet. That's where we try to be. If you're on Facebook, like us, share us, tell your family and friends. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Please, we need you. Now, more than ever, we need you. Twitter, what's up, tweets? How you doing? Instagram, you're the cool kids. And if you like what we do, and if you come to Cheesehead TV every day and you like the content, whether it's on the website, any of the video channels, whatever we do, if you enjoy it, please support what we do. Go to our Patreon, give us a few bucks, just $5 a month makes you a patron and puts you in the drawing to win Overstock t-shirts that we're slowly mailing out. We just mailed out another one today. So thanks a lot, everyone. Packer Transplants will be back tomorrow. We'll see you then. Have a good night.